Perfect Union, a podcast about the joy we get from American politics, or as we call it around here, real debate without the hate. Hi there, I'm DJ McGuire. I am your neoconservative libertarian from Suffolk, Virginia.
Hi there, I'm Cliff Dunn. I'm your Republican from Newport News, Virginia.
And I'm Kevin Kelton, your Democrat from Los Angeles, California.
I'm Emily Brewer. I'm your moderate Republican from Virginia.
I'm John G. Hartness, and I am your guest independent raving liberal from North Carolina.
And I'm Greg Matuzek, your liberal Democrat that you special ordered from Cincinnati, Ohio. With over 16,000 downloads last week and over 50,000 in October alone. Wow.
All from my mother.
All from Kevin's mother. She loves us. A More Perfect Union is now one of the top 25 most popular podcasts, political podcasts in the nation. Gotta be careful. A More Perfect Union can be found on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and at our website, moreperfectunionpodcast.com. So this being the penultimate, that's my 25-cent word of the week, penultimate week before the election, I was hoping that we would not talk about the presidential election. I was hoping we would talk about Senate races, health care, all about the really important down ballot.
And then Friday happened.
Oh, it keeps dragging us back in.
Oh, James.
Yeah.
Oh, James Comey.
James Comey. What do you guys?
Are we open for conspiracy theory here?
Oh, sure. Always.
Well, okay. Why don't we give the people who were living in under a rock or doing sweat lodges this weekend? Someone, DJ, do you want to do this? You love doing this. Tell everyone what the Comey letter was.
What he said was the equivalent of, "Hey, congressional committees that I talked to a few months ago. Remember when I told you that we had investigated everything we were going to investigate about the Clinton email server fiasco? Well, it turns out as we were investigating Dick Pic New Yorker, we stumbled. That would be Anthony Weiner, for those of you who don't know.
The most appropriately
named
person in politics.
Yes.
Indeed. We stumbled across some stuff that may be relevant. We're not sure. We haven't quite looked into it, but we just wanted to let you know that what I said 3 months ago may or may not be correct." At that point, 90% of America chose to lose its goddamned mind. The entire Republican Party seemed to assert that there was new evidence when Comey did not say there was new evidence. He said there's something that may be evidence. And the Democrats asserted that Comey basically said the same thing and he was wrong. So now a public official who actually is in his post for another 7 years by law, he has a 10-year term, he doesn't care who gets elected, is supposedly trying to orchestrate who the next president of the United States is, to the great joy of 40-odd% of the population and the horror of 45-odd% of the population. Meanwhile, those few of us who actually looked at what Comey wrote are just wondering, what the hell is wrong with the rest of you?
Well, listen, I was not a James Comey fan in June or July. I think that he screwed up the first time that he addressed the public on this issue, and I think he screwed up royally on Friday. My opinion is there's no way James Comey is going to be the director of the FBI by, let's say, March of 2017. I frankly don't think that he'll be the director of the FBI. I think he resigns. With a lot of people saying, because if Hillary Clinton wins the presidency, she cannot have an FBI director who is actively and consistently investigating her. That's just not tenable. And if Donald Trump wins the presidency, everybody will say, well, it was only because of Comey, and his position won't be tenable that way either. Plus, I don't think Trump wants him either. I think this guy is damaged goods. I think he's a political dead man walking. I'm pretty sure you will not be seeing him in the news after January 20th.
I think that's where you're wrong. I think this is his exit strategy and his pay raise strategy. If you want to talk conspiracy theories, let's talk about how much more money this guy can make on the talk show circuit and on the rubber chicken dinner circuit.
So you're not saying I'm wrong about him leaving government. You're saying I'm wrong about we'll never hear from him again.
Right. I think you'll see him on the news twice as much in 2017 because someone is going to trot this guy out as an expert consultant on all issues of law enforcement and government and espionage and cyber, anything that he can cash a paycheck for. And
wait. Could it be on a possible Trump news network?
I would not be that specific. And
okay.
I think John might be right. Actually, I'll stand corrected. We will hear from him. He won't be the FBI
throw more
director.
caution to the wind here.
I know Emily had a conspiracy theory
let
also.
me ask what I have here.
You know what I'm thinking, and you guys
Emily,
may
go ahead.
think I'm totally crazy. So last week, the Obama administration came out with a 22% premium hike on Obamacare, and then the Comey later hits, and I'm thinking, like, does Obama not love Hillary anymore? What happened? Is this like payback for all the mean things she said in 2008? I kid.
The thing about the premium hike, what strikes me there is because of when they scheduled open enrollment for and so forth, how stupid were they when they wrote the healthcare law so that these premium hike announcements would always come out at the end of October, 2 weeks before Election Day? It's almost like they intentionally shot themselves in the foot by scheduling it that way.
The answer is very stupid.
On, Cliff. The answer, and actually Kevin is right, but not in the way he thinks. The answer is these people were so largely ignorant of microeconomics that they probably looked forward to the October indications because they were arrogant and stupid enough to believe that there would be lower premiums announced in October. So they figured this was a chance to cash in politically on the lower premiums, having no idea that microeconomics essentially made those lower premiums practically impossible because of the way the law was put together.
Totally agree with you, DJ. This was a game plan, I think, to continually elect Democrats, Greg and Kevin's favorite people, and it's kind of backfired.
These are my people.
No, supermodels are my favorite people. After that, it's Democrats.
I think you're giving the Democratic Party way too much credit. Now, I'm in North Carolina, of course, so there's no credit to be given to the Democratic Party in my state for years. But yeah, to think that the people who were framing this had enough of a clue to plan ahead, oh yeah, I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them to think that far ahead.
They didn't read the law before they wrote it or before they voted on it.
Yeah, but going back to Comey, will this have an effect, or will this have the effect, or how many points? What do you guys all think? We'll start with Cliff. Will this be the final silver bullet to put Hillary down, or is she Teflon?
This alone, no, but when taken in conjunction with what is often being bandied about with the upcoming leak stuff from WikiLeaks and so forth, I think the combination may be enough.
Really? Like Trump could win now? You see a path to victory?
I would say 40% chance of winning now, and that's about twice where it was a few days ago.
Yeah, Emily, is this your save? Is this the silver lining?
I've got to be honest. I think this is a game changer for a lot of people because I don't think, and you have to remember, the average voter doesn't study as much as other people do. So we're taking all the facts into account. We're going in and we're reading the entire letter. We're doing all these things. So you have to know that a lot of voters take their information more anecdotally. And so I think this has a major effect. And I think he's probably right.
John, what do you think? Will this shift the polls greatly? Because Thursday, Hillary had, according to 538, had an 84% chance of winning, of taking it all.
Well, as of 10:31 this evening, according to 538, Hillary has a 78.8% chance.
Exactly.
So if I hadn't called up that website, I was going to say it's probably worth about 4 points. It looks like it's worth about 6 today.
No, 6 percentage chances, not 6 points. 6 percentage chances.
Right, 6 percentage chances today.
Okay.
But we're still a week out. And if we saw a 6% change in the likelihood from the last 3 days, I don't think it's enough. I think that I think that you're right that a lot of people don't read very deeply, but I think that you've got a lot of people who vote on one or two issues. And some of those issues have become so polarizing in this election, and the positions are so far apart on those specific issues that someone who's voting on the issue of abortion cares not a bit about this news release. This has nothing to do with that. That's not their issue. Someone who cares about defense spending, if that's their issue, this has nothing to do with that. So I don't think it's going to be enough to swing the pendulum. I don't think it's your silver bullet.
Kevin?
Yeah, well, I agree with John. My feeling is that, first of all, the race was tightening as of Friday morning before this all broke. And I think that probably that trend line would have continued, sort of like Obamacare premiums going up. But I think that it will tighten the race. I think it may cost her a state that she otherwise might have won, or maybe two. So instead of winning with 340 or 350 electoral votes, I think now it's more likely to be 290 to 310. I still feel very confident that Hillary is going to win, and for a lot of the reasons that John pointed out. But also, in a strange way, and I just wrote a blog piece on our website, moreperfectunionpodcast.com, about this. In some ways, I think this news ultimately may end up helping her. Let's not forget, we're now 48 hours or so into this news breaking, and there's already been a lot of developments that have pushed back against the idea that Comey has done it. You know, what I'm seeing in, both online amongst our friends and on the news shows is the feeling now is that he overstepped his bounds. He went against the leaders of the Justice Department. He may have even broken the Hatch Law that they're talking about?
The Hatch Act.
The Hatch Act. Thank you.
Right.
And I think
Harry
that.
continues
Hold on,
to
hold on,
pollute
hold
the
on,
political
DJ,
discourse.
please. It's my turn to pollute the political discourse here.
It is indeed.
So my thinking is that where things stand now are not where they're going to stand on Friday, and they're not where they're going to stand a week from tomorrow. I think this story is going to evolve quite a bit. Frankly, I think there's going to be a backlash. I also think that if the polls are tightening, which they are, that's going to make a lot of millennials and a lot of, I hate to say this, DJ, but Johnson voters and Stein voters rethink their protest vote. I think it's going to bring a lot of millennials out to the polls. I think it's going to bring a lot of Bernie or bust people back to Hillary. So I think that the damage is going to be minor to negligible.
Yeah, I kind of believe that if you are voting against Hillary, if you are voting for Trump, you're still going to vote that way. And if you are voting for Hillary, you're still going to vote for her. This really didn't change anyone in those bases. And if you are undecided at this point, you missed the story completely. There's no way you saw it, because anyone who's undecided at this point, there's something wrong. They are on a tropical island. How can you be undecided at this point, people? It's mind-boggling.
I actually think Kevin's electoral hydraulics theory does have some merit. I think there are going to be some people who, as this race gets tighter, folks who are Stein supporters, who are Johnson supporters from the left, are going to rethink their vote. I do think that's going to happen. I also think one of the things we have to take in mind is that there are a lot of millions of Americans who have already voted, and I think that is going to be something that is sort of baked into the cake here. In the end, you normally get what I call a second look effect in any campaign. This just sort of gives the excuse for the second look effect. Deep down, there are floating voters who do not want to see Trump elected, but who are looking at the situation in their state, looking at the situation nationwide, and who are looking at their vote accordingly. The one thing I am certain of is that Evan McMullin will carry Utah now, because you're going to see a lot of voters who have gone to Clinton to stop Trump in Utah, who will say, I really don't want to vote for Clinton, but wait a minute, the polls are saying Evan McMullin is beating Trump in Utah. I can vote for Evan McMullin, and that's okay. So I think Evan McMullin is going to win Utah. It is possible that Gary Johnson does strong in New Mexico because polling showed him strong there. There are a couple of other Western states, and by Western I mean Rocky Mountain states. Clinton has no problem on the Pacific Coast. But there are a couple of Rocky Mountain states where nobody's done a lot of polling, where some very weird things could happen for some minor party candidates. Places that that we would expect Trump would carry, that he may not carry for that reason. In terms of how much it'll affect the general, again, I'm trying to figure out what state would Hillary Clinton possibly lose because of this kind of thing coming back up again. And I honestly can't think of one right now. Virginia's too much into the Democratic column right now for it to be at risk, and I can't see any other state really having the concern over this in terms of their electorate.
Yeah, one thing I would say there is, you mentioned the Johnson voters cooking off to one candidate or the other. I'm wondering how many Hillary-leaning Johnson voters are left, given that Johnson has shed about 3 or 4 points over the last month and a half. And that's been the same time that Hillary has gone up in the polls. So my thinking would be that since it was about half and half in September, a lot of those, Hillary protest voters going to Johnson have already cooked off. So I'm not sure how much of an effect is left to be had there.
Well, I think something we need to be taking a good look at, obviously, I mean, there's more than a presidential going on here. We have the Senate, which is a huge deal going on right now. And just to run down a couple of these things going on in Florida, Rubio's up 8. I think he's got that in the bag. McCain's up 5. I've seen it in a couple polls. I think is very, very interesting. Pennsylvania is going to be key to watch in the Senate right now. We have McGinty and Toomey at a virtual tie. And as well as where our friend John is in North Carolina, we have Burr and Ross in a virtual tie.
We do. And that's going to be tight until way late into the evening on November 8th. I don't expect you to see much break free because the way North Carolina is made up it's similar to the way a lot of the country is made up, is there are clumps of Democratic voters in the metropolitan area, but there's a lot of money and wealth in what we refer to as down east. The area of the state east of Raleigh, between Raleigh and the coast, is locked in Republican country, and that part of the state is not your early voter crowd, because your early voter crowd frequently are your younger independents, your motivated people who are paying close attention to a lot of things. There's a lot of different people who vote early, but the majority of those are not your rural folks who have been raised to, you vote on election day. You go in, you go on Tuesday, and that's your thing. So I feel like that race is going to be very tight. The tough part for Burr, I think, is going to be that there's a very motivated liberal voter base in North Carolina this year because of the governor's race. And the view on a lot of liberal voters that Governor McCrory has done a lot of financial damage to the state is going to spill over onto Burr. And the push is for straight party ticket voting. And the Democratic Party in North Carolina is very much they're pushing the down ticket races, and they're pushing for vote for all the Democrats.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to one of the reasons we have John on, as we are 9 days from Election Day. John is indeed, in addition to being a writer, he's a publisher at Falstaff Books, and he is the editor of We Are Not This, Carolina Writers for Equality. And that was actually a reaction to HB 2, known as the bathroom bill in the rest of the country. And John, if you could just give us a quick synopsis of what exactly that has done for, or more appropriately, to the state, and how that inspired you to come up with this anthology in response.
Well, to step back very quickly, and I'll try and keep it as brief as possible, I spoke at one of the Charlotte City Council meetings supporting the non-discrimination ordinance that started this whole thing. The city of Charlotte passed an ordinance requiring that people don't discriminate against LGBTQ citizens. And when that ordinance was passed, the state legislature then not only put into place a law that says you can't discriminate against LGBTQ citizens, but it also said that municipalities can't raise the minimum wage and that employees can't sue for wrongful termination at the state level, and all of these things that have nothing to do with bathrooms or LGBTQ citizens, but they got tacked on and actually make up the majority of the bill. But we at Falstaff Books produced an anthology, and it's a charity anthology. All proceeds will be divided amongst LGBTQ-centric nonprofits based in North Carolina. And it's a response to this bill because I, as the founder and publisher of the company, felt that I needed to do something to support my friends and loved ones that are potentially being harmed by this bill. And not only has it led to more hate-filled rhetoric among North Carolinians, but it's also led to, a few minor economic impacts like PayPal canceling a call center being moved to North Carolina. Last week, a 730 job company didn't come to North Carolina. The NBA All-Star game was relocated. The ACC title football game was relocated. All of these are a direct response. So the economic response to HB2 has been in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to this roiling the state, the fact is North Carolina is a state that is one of the, for lack of a better term, swingiest states in the country. It was the second closest in 2012. It had the second closest Senate race in 2014. And of course, we've talked about the Senate race, but it's also a very critical race at the presidential level. And John, you mentioned Governor McCrory's efforts at re-election. How much of an effect has this issue had, not just on the governor's race, but also on the, for lack of a better term, the up ballot races at the federal level?
North Carolina was a solid red presidential state until the first Obama election. It had gone for a Democrat once in my lifetime prior to that, and that was for Carter. This has not been a state that voted for Democrats in the presidential election historically. But when segments of the population get motivated, Obama, in his first election, motivated young people and college students and people who had relocated to the state, and he carried the state very narrowly. He didn't do such a great job motivating those voters in the state the second time, and he didn't win the state. This bill has motivated a lot of people who ordinarily wouldn't vote. They may not have ever voted for president in an election in their lives, wow, but it touches them personally now.
Any prediction about, you mentioned that you think the Senate race will be very close. Any prediction about how these three statewide races will go, do you think?
I think the state goes for Clinton for Cooper for governor, and I think it goes for Burr in the Senate.
So before we close this portion, John, why don't you let our listeners know how they can get a hold of your new anthology, We Are Not This?
We Are Not This is available currently on Amazon in ebook format. It will be available on all other ebook retailers next week, and it'll be available in print at some point in November as soon as we get the formatting finished. But like I said, it's 30 plus stories by everyone from New York Times bestsellers to people with their very first publication credit. There's some amazing writing in there, and all of the proceeds do go to support Time Out Youth, which is a local nonprofit that supports LGBTQ youth. It goes to Queen City Theater Company, which is a LGBTQ-run theater organization in Charlotte, and it goes to Equality NC, which is a PAC.
Well, thank you so much, John. We appreciate that, and let us now move to the predictions portion of our podcast, to the extent that we can predict anything at this point. I've already thrown a few predictions out there. So, over the next week, what is the next unexpected announcement, and who will be its victim? Greg, we'll start with you.
So, I would love to say that Trump is going to say something like hateful against a beloved American figure like Tom Hanks, or but it's not a prediction if you know it's going to happen. So at this point, I'm just like reading from like tomorrow's paper, like, oh, I know this is going to happen. So I think what's actually going to happen is that they're going to leak more Apprentice video, or they're going to leak, and it's not going to be policy. It's not going to be, nothing that we know that we don't know. That's going to be the worst surprise. That, oh, look, it's more celebrities with Trump doing horrible things, and no one at this point, we're so jaded that we're like, oh. And people who are still voting for him are still going to vote for him, and people who are not, because I'm at this point, let's vote Senate races. Because I'm jaded.
Okay,
Kevin.
Okay, so I have
Kevin,
I have two predictions for November surprises. First of all, I think that James Comey is going to be forced to make another statement or release another letter. I don't think that he can skate it out on what he did on Friday. There's too much pressure building up, and apparently the facts do not support the interpretation that he left open to the public based on the poor wording of his original letter. But I also have one other, because obviously there's surprises. Who can know? I'm just taking guesses here. But I have a feeling that there's more to come on the Donald Trump side, and I don't think it's going to be about his relationships with women. I think something's going to come out about his taxes in the next week. I think someone is going to release something that will be embarrassing to him that has to do with his businesses or his taxes. That's my prediction.
Okay, Em, you're up.
I don't think we're going to have any more surprises than what we already expect. I think some WikiLeaks stuff will come out. I think some Donald Trump information will come out, and I think both will cancel each other. It's not going to change anything, and people are just numb at this point. That's what I'm thinking. So I think a story will come out against each candidate. It will cancel each other out, and voters are numb. So I think it will make a difference.
Okay, that's the Pink Floyd interpretation. Everybody's gone comfortably numb. Cliff, you're up.
Well, I think based on what we've discussed earlier, most of what we're going to see has been telegraphed. So I don't think there's necessarily a huge surprise waiting in the wings. So biggest surprise story of the week, Cubs win the World Series. Indians are most affected.
Okay.
Lies.
Okay.
I was going to predict the Mets.
Cleveland only gets one championship in a year. I'm sorry, that's all you get. Or century.
John, what do you have for us on the prediction front?
I think there will be a final silver bullet on Trump, and I think it'll come out Wednesday or Thursday. I believe you'll see either straight up video of him assaulting someone or a real link between him and Putin that is irrefutable. I think you'll see, I think that's what the Clinton camp is holding. I think that there will be more WikiLeaks stuff coming, but I expect something to come out and just hammer Trump.
Okay.
Em, you want to take us out?
That's some crazy stuff, guys. I think we've covered a lot. I can't wait for next Sunday's episode because I know it's going to be absolutely explosive after all our predictions. But we want to thank everybody for listening. Make sure you like us on Facebook at facebook.com/More Perfect Union Podcast. Don't forget, share a link on Facebook on your newsfeed.
And if you enjoyed political debates and would like to be part of ours, join us on our Facebook in our political discussion group, Open Fire. We're all there, and we'd love to see you there, too. Until next week, happy trails, or however you want to say this, goodbye.
Later.
Peace.
For the record, the airplane was invented in Ohio, not North Carolina. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh, God.